All right, future CPAs, listen up. We're about to tackle one of the trickiest but most important parts of the law on sales, delivery and risk of loss. Think of this as the ultimate study hack, designed to lock this knowledge into your brain not just for your next quiz, but for the long haul, all the way to the LCPA. Let's get into it. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the two absolute must-dos for any seller. Then we'll dive deep into all the different ways to deliver something, from the obvious physical handoff to the weird legal stuff. We'll also figure out who takes the financial hit when things go wrong and wrap it all up with a rapid-fire review to make sure you've got this down cold. You know, every single sale, whether you're selling your old textbooks or running an online side hustle, really just boils down to two fundamental promises that you as the seller are making. Let's break them down. Let's make this super real. Imagine you just sold your PS5 online. Someone hit buy, the money's coming. Right now, at this very moment, what are the two things the law says you have to do? Boom, here they are. First, you have to transfer ownership. That means legally, that console isn't yours anymore. Second, you have to deliver it, and that means putting it into the buyer's control and possession. Now, these are the vendor's two main jobs. It sounds pretty simple, right? But that second one, delivery, that's where things get really interesting and honestly, a bit tricky. So let's start with the easy one, the most straightforward kind of delivery, the one we all think of first. The law calls this actual delivery, or sometimes real delivery, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The thing you sold is physically put into the hands or under the control of the buyer. Back to our gaming console example, you meet the buyer at a Starbucks, they give you the cash, and you hand them the box with the console. That's it. That's actual delivery. Done. Simple. Okay, but what if you can't just hand something over? What if it's impossible or just really impractical? Well, this is where the law gets super clever. It has these workarounds called constructive delivery. They're basically legal fictions that count as a real delivery. First up is traditio symbolica. Think symbolic delivery. Instead of giving the actual thing, you hand over something that represents it and gives the buyer control. The classic textbook example is a key. So let's say you sell your massive collection of accounting textbooks that are stashed away in a storage locker. The moment you give the buyer the key to that locker, guess what? The law says you have just legally delivered all of those books. Next on the list is traditio longa manu. It literally means longhand delivery, and this one happens just by agreement. You just point at the thing and say it's theirs. It's usually for stuff that's too big or difficult to move at the time of the sale. Imagine you're selling your huge, bulky gaming PC to your roommate. It's a hassle to move it right then and there. You can literally just point at it from across the room and say, okay, dude, it's all yours now. Legally, you've just delivered it. Okay, now for a pair that can be a little confusing, so pay close attention. First is traditio brevi manu, or shorthand delivery. This is a legal shortcut for when the buyer already has the item, they just don't own it yet. Think of them renting or borrowing it from you. So your classmate has been borrowing your law and sales textbook all semester. At the end of the term, they ask to just buy it from you, and you agree. The very moment you both agree on the sale, delivery is done. They don't have to give the book back to you just for you to hand it right back. That would be pointless. And the flip side of that is traditio constitutum possessorium. This is where the seller sells the thing but actually keeps it, just in a new role, like they're now renting it. Let's say you're short on cash, so you sell your laptop to a friend, but and this is a big but, you have a final project due next week, so you agree to rent it back from them for 7 days. Even though the laptop never left your desk, you have legally delivered it. You're no longer the owner, you're just a lessee. All right, here's your study hack to lock these two in for good. For brevi manu, just remember, lessee becomes owner. The buyer already had it, now they own it. For constitutum possessorium, it's the opposite. Owner becomes lessee. The seller had it, and they're keeping it, but now as a renter. It's all about who has the thing and how their legal status changes. Okay, we've covered physical stuff, but what about things you can't actually touch, like stocks, or copyrights, or a debt someone owes you? How in the world do you deliver those? This is where something called quasi-traditio comes in. There are basically 3 ways to do it. 1, you can execute a public document, like a notarized deed of sale. 2, you can physically hand over the proof of ownership, like a stock certificate. Or 3, you can simply let the buyer use their new rights and you're okay with it. This is super important for exam questions about selling shares or assigning a credit. Now we're getting to the really high stakes part. The thing has been sold, but before the buyer can even get it, it gets destroyed. A fire, a typhoon, it gets stolen, whatever. Who bears that financial loss? The seller or the buyer? The law has a core principle for this, and it's in Latin, res perit domino. It literally means the thing perishes for the owner. But in simple terms, it just means whoever owns the item at the exact moment it's lost is the one who has to suck it up and take the loss. This table breaks it all down perfectly, so let's go through it. Before the contract is perfected, like when you're still just negotiating, the seller owns it, so the risk is on them. Then, at the moment of perfection, when you both agree on the item and the price, ownership still hasn't transferred, so the risk is still with the seller. The absolute key moment, the game changer, is delivery. Only after delivery, whether it was actual or constructive, does ownership finally transfer to the buyer. And at that point, the risk transfers too. The buyer is now the owner and res perit domino. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's condense all of that into the ultimate cheat sheet. These are the key takeaways you absolutely need to burn into your memory for exam day. Ready? Let's do a rapid-fire review. A seller has two duties: transfer ownership and deliver. Delivery is all about giving the buyer control and possession. Actual is the physical handoff. Constructive is the legal equivalent. Think keys, pointing, or special agreements. Brevi manu, the lessee becomes the owner. Constitutum possessorium, the owner becomes the lessee. The rule for risk is res perit domino. The owner bears the loss. And the most crucial point of all, ownership, and therefore the risk, transfers upon delivery, not just when you agree to the sale. So the next time you click checkout online, ask yourself, at what exact moment did that item and all the risk that comes with it legally become mine?